Joker 2 is on its way. Obviously, we've kind of speculated about whether this movie is possibly going to make the whole musical concept work, and how well it's going to fit in with the previous one. And it's still a couple of weeks off, but they've already done some advanced reviews of it, and they haven't been great. And I just wanted to read you a little bit about what we've got so far. This one is from the bastion of great journalism and unbiased takes, IGN. But I did think it was an interesting take they had here. Joker 2 charges out of the gate with a novel approach to DC's most famous villain, but it soon settles into rote rhythms. Though advertised as a dreamy jukebox musical, the sequel to the Joker is actually more of a courtroom drama, and not a very interesting one at that. The film works best when pushing towards new ways of seeing its central character, often through the eyes of a wonderfully realized Harley Quinn played by Lady Gaga. But it too often insists on returning to familiar territory and occasion familiar footage instead of blazing a new path, which doesn't sound great. And then, looking at some of the reviews that we see on Rotten Tomatoes, we got one from Hannah Strong. Says, it begs the question, why is Phillips so reluctant to embrace the film as a musical? Why not add a little more color, some flourish to the production design?
Seems like he didn't commit to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around where this movie sits. It says from Tim Grierson, where the original Joker remains a stunning exception, that rare blockbuster with emotional shading, grown-up themes, and a genuine sense of grandeur, the sequel fails to stay on the beat. And lastly, Shane McKevitt says, Joker 2 certainly sings a different tune than its predecessor, but it isn't an encore worth sticking around for. Doesn't sound amazing. I'm not going to lie.
Did IGN give it a 7? Or
Wait. I have to check, actually.
It's always a 7.
It's always a 7, like the worst possible score they can give it. Oh, no, 5. Mediocre.
Wow.
Despite the best efforts of Joaquin Phoenix, Lady Gaga, and an opening hour set in Arkham Asylum, Joker wastes its potential as a musical, a courtroom drama, and a sequel that has anything meaningful to say about or add to the first Joker. I mean,
I was surprised he didn't say too much Joker.
Yeah,
People
too much toxic masculinity.
Yeah. This could be something to worry about in terms of the film's quality, but you have to bear in mind how much the first Joker ran into the ground by a lot of these types of reviewers before everyone went to see it. So,
sure. But I think they did it for different reasons. I think a lot of their criticisms not like this fosters dangerous ideas and blah blah blah, white man victim and all that sort of thing. Whereas this seems to focus in much more on the actual mechanics of the movie, which is slightly worrying.
I mean, back then I remember reading all kinds of reviews that would go into what is wrong with it. Like, it's a Taxi Driver clone. It wants to be a real movie, but it's not. It's very melodramatic. Joaquin Phoenix's over-the-top portrayal, that it focuses too hard on trying to make a point about society that's irrelevant or inaccurate. Lots of stuff like that came out. Yeah. It's just that it got like a pinpoint sort of focus for being awful, if I remember. Because at the time, we had to do a bit of hang on, it's actually kind of good. But it seems like these days a lot of people are willing to just accept, oh, no, that one was good. It's like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. But this one isn't. Now, this one very much could be terrible. I don't know, but it's weird, right? Because if all those reviews were really good, if you just read them all out and they just said generic blurbs about being good, I would probably be the reverse right now. I'd be like, I don't know, maybe it's bad, because I can't fucking trust these people. It always feels like it's useless information.
Yeah, no, I'm generally inclined to agree, and like my rule of thumb with this sort of thing is, like, if the mainstream media dislike it, then it's probably on the right track for being quite good. But I do think it's interesting, some of the criticisms that they bring up, and particularly because I think we all had some reservations about the concept behind it. Like, I don't know, some of the criticisms seem to be that it doesn't really fully commit to the idea of being a musical, and it's actually like fairly pedestrian in a lot of senses. And it only breaks into those musical numbers on rare occasions. Again, could be totally wrong, and these criticisms might be unfounded, but I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting one to chew over, I suppose. I think these professional reviewers as well, they'll very much be aware of the reception that the first movie got and how wildly positive most of the reception was for it and how successful it was. And I don't know if that perhaps would normally factor into their perception of the sequel. They'd almost expect it to be good, and so they know what people are expecting from it, and it's not. I don't know.
I don't trust critics at all. So, and we've seen so many examples of disparities between audience and critics. So I think this is a mulligan, actually, who can say. But the movie it's based on, I believe, just because I've known Todd Phillips from the indie film world back in the 90s, Film Threat even distributed his first movie, his first documentary. So, but his track record is mixed, right? With some colossal successes and then downright duds like Hangover 2 and 3. But this, if I'm reading it, the first movie was based on Scorsese's King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, very influenced by those movies from the 70s. I believe, speculating, this is based on New York, New York, with Liza Minnelli and Robert De Niro, also directed by Scorsese, which that movie was a bomb. Almost no one's seen it. It tanked. And I feel like if he's going that direction, the reviews are accurate. So, and no one cares about this being part of is it part of the Matt Reeves universe? Are we going to see young Batman? Will there be Harvey Dent? Like, no one's
so sad.
No one's talking about that. I don't know. Remains to be seen. I like the concept. I like the idea he's going after like musical variety shows from the 70s, like Sonny and Cher, which no one remembers but Gary and I.
You boomers.
Yeah. But so wait and see for me, because the critics their track record is so bad. So I'll wait and see. But if he is loosely basing it on New York, New York, that movie wasn't successful. It was a bomb and badly reviewed, one of Scorsese's worst reviewed movies. So it would make sense that, inspired by that it would be a bomb. So we'll see.
Yeah, you know the thing that worries me slightly as well. I feel like the mainstream critical establishment would be quite welcoming towards this film because Lady Gaga's in it.
Right.
One, you've got like a female co-star that balances out the male lead, which you didn't really have in the first movie. And two, she's kind of like this feminist icon and stuff. So I figured like they probably almost want the movie to succeed because she's in it.
Yeah. And they switched dynamics where Harley is supposed to be the one who's in love, not with Arthur, but with the Joker persona that Todd has come out and said, this is never going to be the Joker from the comics. He's never going to be the dude that squares off against Batman.
Right.
So why did you it's the same way I feel about the first one. Great movie, but why did you have to put it in the Batman universe and just...
Well, you said you had to hide his movie inside a movie that would be more like successful in the box
Get
office.
us to eat our vegetables?
Well, there's almost
cheese.
like Inception levels of hiding of stuff, because one, he couldn't do comedy anymore, so he had to switch over to a dramatic story, and then two, he had to wrap up his essentially the tale of like a straight white guy who's ostracized by society and abandoned by it within the framework of the DC universe of being the Joker.
Yeah, I don't mind that, because he has something to say and he's not lecturing, not trying to push a message, right? I mean, when Todd is good, I think he's very good. The Joker deserved the accolades, and I'm glad it was a huge success. But he is, if you look at his filmography, it's like every other movie. So it would make sense to me that this might not totally work. But
like I said, no more movies, right? This is it.
Well,
this is the continuation.
Did he say that?
He did say that. Now, whether he said that and then there's no more John Wick movies type of thing.
He said he wouldn't make a sequel to the Joker,
Right.
I mean, here he is.
Please. I get it. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, does it matter? It's not in a universe. It's not, Batman's not in it. That would have been interesting to see a Joker movie where the Joker was the protagonist and Batman was the asshole, like ruining all of his plans. Just see a Batman movie from the Joker's point of view would have been kind of interesting, but didn't do that.
He's a tough character to get inside of, because like this version of the Joker is not the comic book version of the Joker. This is like just a disturbed guy who's had a really shit deal in life, and as a result, turns to this persona as like his only way out. But that's not really the Joker that we see in the comic books. And so that comic accurate Joker would be a tough guy to get behind, because really he's an agent of absolute chaos. And like, I don't even know what his motivation would be at any particular point. He probably doesn't
if he was
even know
blowing up
himself.
Hollywood. But
I think we could all get behind him. Yeah. That'd be fine,
Hold on,
yeah.
let hear him out.
If he was going after people who deserved it, right? I mean, anti-heroes are fun. American Psycho, great
Sure.
anti-hero. You don't want him to get caught, right? Like, it's that's a fun kind of story.
Yeah,
right?
Nightcrawler, like again, like a very fascinating protagonist who's really the villain. But yeah, the Joker is just so out there. It's difficult to even know like what his motivation
on
would be
which
that you would
version
understand.
you go. That's like the whole Three Joker storyline, where they're very different depending on the time and period there. And some are more sadistic, some more care about anarchy, some more care about like it just depends on which version you go with. But either way, I just like Joker, I prefer his. If I'm to have a history, I prefer it be multiple choice. Like I don't want a locked-in version.
I mean, I did kind of like Heath Ledger's version of it, where it's like he's a guy who's trying to make a very like relevant point about the nature of humanity and society and stuff, and he's trying to prove that it's fundamentally destroyable. If you push people hard enough, they will revert to their base instincts. So that's kind of cool, because you can get behind that motivation of like, I have a point to prove here. But again, he's quite a departure from the raving lunatic that you see in most of the comic book versions. But,
and I love that Heath Ledger based that performance on Tom Waits and John Lydon. I mean, if you watch videos of John Lydon on like the Tom Snyder show, I'm sure it's on YouTube, that his demeanor during that interview, he's bizarre. And
the prosthetics kept coming off, so he kept licking them to keep them wet, so they wouldn't. And that led to the whole facial tick. Really, God, what a good performance!
Well, yeah, because he described it as like a wound that like an animal keeps licking at, and I think it just looks disgusting, and you can totally imagine it. But
I love that he tells a different story every time he talks about his past. Like that's all you need to do. Just throw me a little bit of a lifeline to like, he was lying.
Yeah, it's interesting as well that you said, Chris. Like obviously the first Joker movie was based heavily on Taxi Driver and King of Comedy, and you can absolutely see it. And man, like bringing Robert De Niro in was pretty on the nose for the like the interviewer. Yeah. And it's like, I just think it's interesting now that like the first question we ask with new movies like this is, what is it based on? What movie are you trying to copy here when you're making it? It's like, wouldn't it be crazy if we lived in this world like where it was just an original idea? It wasn't really based around anything. It's not trying to like replicate some other genre movie from the 70s or whatever. It's just a new thing. Like, hey, I had this idea. I'm pursuing it.
Drinker, are you asking for new ideas? Is that what you're asking for?
It's crazy.
We don't do that around here. We don't do that here.
This guy's crazy.
Sequels, please. Sequels, please.
I just think because like you said that and like everyone kind of nods and it's like, yeah, like we get it. Like that's exactly what they did, and it's expected. Any new movie like this, okay, it's probably going to be based around a beloved and a highly successful or at least like a well-regarded movie from the 70s or the 80s or whatever. I just think it's weird that we've gotten to that point now where it's just expected that a modern film is just going to be based on something else.
Or games. Every time they mention like Knights of the Republic or I'm like, shh.
Yeah.
Everyone that has survived not being adapted, don't give them any more ideas.
Well, filmmakers all have their influences, right? Yeah, but we hardly see anything new today, which sucks. I mean, that's in all the Star Wars is like referencing itself constantly. I mean, I think we'd all agree.
What do you mean? Alien Romulus was totally original.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that was the greatest hits, I guess.